Now, the first title of this video is going to be Being a Weirdo, originally. And I was going to say that I felt weird my whole life, and while there's some quirks and my personality and some affinities that I think make me a little unique, as I thought more about it, it became less about me being quote-unquote weird and more about how I've kind of struggled with self-identity. Because just last night I was talking with my fiance about what I would say in this video, and I told her how I've always been someone that kind of fished for an identity and a calling and something that could be a pillar of my self, of my identity. I didn't really have that thing, and she told me that was like completely foreign to her. She's never once wondered about who she's supposed to be. That's just not a question that she carries around with her. And while we're talking, I'm kind of in the midst of searching in real time in my mind for what makes up my identity. And she said I looked sad. And I don't think I was, not intentionally looking sad, but it was more like I was caught going back almost to the point before I remember when I would wonder about myself. And this was always my natural state in the world. I never had that thing, quote unquote, that I thought people have, that make up your identity, either professionally or personally or in any way. And I always wanted that. Now, of course, she has this in spades. She's established. She's a graphic artist. She's an animator. She does it professionally and as a hobby. I'm always impressed by her work. In the past few years, I've seen her really challenge herself, rise to the occasion, push herself to new heights, and I think she can basically do anything. And I live with this person who's so obviously mastered these skills, who has her thing, while I look at myself and what I do for work, and the only thing I can identify that makes me any bit uniquely valuable, if I can even say that, is I seem to be good with numbers, and I have a good memory, and I usually don't forget a name or a face, and I'm relatively organized. And to me, those aren't things. I know that they could be, but to me, they're not conventional skills, right? And because of that, and maybe because of some indoctrination of you need a valuable skill, a high-value skill to make it in life, to succeed, I'm like, where's my skill? What do I bring to the table? And I don't know if I have one, And that leads down questions of identity where I go, why do I think this? Where does this question even come from? Have I always had this incredulity to my identity? And I think the answer is yes. And I remember being pretty young when I started asking why, not merely like why do traffic lights change colors? Why is the sky blue? But more of like, what am I supposed to do? Why am I even here? And even when I was a little kid, when I was just starting to form thoughts, these were the thoughts I was forming. And I was like, what's the point? Am I supposed to be doing something here? And in the meanwhile, I'm a sponge to my surroundings. I had an older brother who's 9 years older than me. So as you can imagine, he instantly becomes the coolest person I know. And I soak up all the music that he listens to, video games that he plays, now I play. I wanted to copy him wholesale, like a chameleon. Even when I was, coordinated enough to play games, that's all I wanted to do. Given this, my parents were a little concerned, I think, that all I wanted to do was play video games. And they wanted to give me something else to do. Something from my dad was he wanted to, I think, learn guitar, or he wished he did. And so I got to. And I never enjoyed it. I never wanted to do it. But in a way, it was still something that I did, which was nice. Vaguely this was something that I could identify with because it was a regular hobby and I did this. It had its charm. But again, that's not what I want to do. What I did want to do is, particularly when I graduated from a PlayStation 2 to an Xbox 360, was play RPG games. I wanted to play Fallout 3. I wanted to play New Vegas. I wanted to play Skyrim. And that made sense. Of course it did. I got to spend time in these crafted worlds that supercharged a sense of identity and purpose that I think I was looking for and never had myself. As a kid, I was enamored. I was part of these heroic journeys and epic stories, and it was so engaging. And I was totally immersed, and I never had anything in common with my real life, Again, I was like this chameleon, whether it was my family or if it was my friends at school. My identity was just a reflection back of what it was around me. When I got to high school, this constant seeking for an identity got stronger. And I felt like I recognize this now, that I had a need to express myself that was greater than anything that I could express. I hadn't experienced much in life, and I was aware of this antithetical force that made me kind of irritating to myself and maybe my close friends. But since I was such an introvert and socially anxious, I didn't have any outlet that I felt comfortable to release this expression and energy. It was like an angst, but at nothing in particular. And from my freshman year in high school to my graduating year, I think I got pretty good at acting normal or masking some of my quirks. I was a sensitive kid, but issuing this mask led to a greater feeling of isolation that made me feel like nobody really got me. Which I don't know how true that was, but it certainly was represented by myself, to myself. And I don't even think I got myself at this point. And it kept everyone around me kind of amenable to my presence. I let that happen. I made friends. And there were times when I wanted to try new things. I snuck out to some parties. I drank, not very often, partly because I don't think I liked any alcohol, and I didn't really like the experience I had when I drank. If I could turn back time now, maybe I'd change some small things, but generally I don't know how much would change. Generally, I think there wasn't much in my hometown to begin with, and I don't know if that would have made a huge difference. The problem was, it didn't stop my feeling like life was kind of in service of an inherited dream, and I was told what my goals or career or anything should be. By the time I graduated high school, I'd seen my brother fly off to the other edge of Canada, which was 3,000 kilometers or 2,000 miles away. And of course, My mom particularly, is a little upset about having her boy far away. So again, for reasons beyond my desires, I applied for one school close by, one town over. Didn't even bother looking at any other engineering schools. Got in, and that was it. And when I got there and I landed in my apartment, fully autonomous, living the dream, at least on paper, it hit me. This dream came true. I have my own spot. I can form my own identity. This was the finish line that I was chasing, where I could refresh. This is a new journey, new identity. And I did what any other remotely sheltered kid did. I wanted to party and drink and make friends and memories and live life, is what I thought, at least within my limits. So I'm still an introvert, and I felt like maybe if I experienced all of these things, I stayed out late, drink and do whatever, this will give me what I missed. This will solve some of the problem of quote-unquote not experiencing life. Didn't happen. Certainly had some fun, but it didn't fill any gaps for me. It didn't solve any questions about myself. It did, however, get in the way of me getting better grades. And at some point here, there were a couple things that took my semblance of identity and really made me question it. Now, at some point there was something that kind of rocked my world, not a good way, and this was my kind of rock bottom that allowed me to take a stand and kind of build up from that. This was when I was like 20, 21 years old, and I rode on the coattails of others all this time, at least in my mind. I developed this personality that came with all these sources and angst and edge that was really overdue for dropping. And I started to be a lot harder on myself, punishing myself, honestly. But taking whatever I took in and assessing whether or not that served me and served where I wanted to go in that moment. Did my friends around me serve me? I'm on this track in engineering school. Does that serve what I want out of life? Is that where I'm supposed to be? In engineering, I'm supposedly expected to be this smart guy. Am I doing smart things? Am I doing whatever I'm supposed to do? I don't even think I had much of a value system during this whole time, and I certainly didn't resemble who I am today. Now, after this kind of self-punishment, there was an event, I guess, that showed me that I was on the right path for myself. I was really grinding a lot harder in my courses, and I got better grades. I did, and I ended up getting a co-op interview. I didn't expect to. I was hoping I would, and I did. I was really in my head about it because in my mind this was a make or break opportunity that would have kind of consequences for the rest of my life. And through my school, they had a co-op office that allowed you to do mock interviews. And I wanted to make a good impression, of course, and I didn't really know what I was headed into. I scheduled this mock interview, don't know with whom, and I show up. And it's this guy, late 40s, maybe early 50s, tall guy, glasses. I don't remember much else. And he sits me down, and he starts going through questions. But quickly, it gets less about practicing some technical questions and more about who I am. What makes me worthwhile, to hire. And it's hard, he's kind of picking me apart. to my face. And he's good at it, you know? And I'm kind of feeling like crap here. I'm feeling frustrated because I'm not seeing the whole value in this. This kind of feels like bullying. Then something switches, you know? This is no longer just a takedown of me. And I'm going to tell you why I'm worth it. And I'm not going to sit here like some bag of trash. So I start defending myself about a lot more effectively than I was, a couple minutes prior. And I laid out, here's who I am. Here's why I'm worth your time. Here's why I was trusted in all of my previous jobs, whether they're part-time or whatever. I'm the one who stayed until the job was done, etc., etc. And for the first time after all this beratement, really, I felt good. I felt like I surprised myself. I'd advocated for myself in a way that maybe I didn't have to in a long time. And it gave me confidence, which is good. Because when I got to the real co-op interview, and it was 3 different departments all sitting around a table, when it was all said and done, what I was told later is that each of the interviewers on each of the teams all wanted me on theirs, which is good. It's kind of an amazing feeling, And I remember how it felt like when I had that offer for a co-op, and it was like this 16-month thing, and I felt so validated, more than I ever had before. Here's this proof that I'm not only just surviving in this engineering program, I was worth, hiring, and I'm still in that industry today, so it worked out. And maybe that's kind of the weird thing. In my life, there's been these checkpoints, There's checkpoints where I've gotten the opportunity to take inventory and decide what I should keep, what I should drop, and whether I've reached some point of actualization in my identity, which at 29, I still haven't, I think it's fine that I just keep going, Whether I'm 19, just starting to get used to being responsible as a adult, or I'm 29, and, I've been through these personal milestones, and now I'm working professionally. And I still feel like I have time on my side to try new things, and beyond that, simply experiencing what I want, which right now is recording videos like this and publishing them for whoever wants to see. I want a community someday, I think. And I want to give my perspective, because someday I won't be here making these videos. I'll be off doing something else. And someday someone will see this. And at the very least, now they've heard me out. And thanks for that. That's the moral of the story, I think. I'm 29. I do have more answers now than I did. I don't have them all. Maybe I never will. The question of who I am does still haunt me from time to time, but it's quieter now, and I enjoy my life despite it. And whatever comes next in my life, whether for YouTube or this channel or for me, I'll let it happen naturally, and I'll follow my excitement, because I'm not forcing it anymore, not because of anyone else. It's just for me.